오지 마세요. 진짜.
Jimin in tears. Taehyung's shocking move after Jungkook's revelation. What really happened? Shock reverberated across the global BTS fandom when a private moment between Jungkook, Taehyung, and Jimin spiraled into one of the most emotionally charged incidents the group has ever faced. What exactly did Jungkook confess that left Taehyung compelled to act and Jimin visibly in tears? And why has this single moment unsettled millions of fans worldwide, leaving them questioning not only the bond within BTS, but also the fragile realities hidden behind the polished surface of global fame? The night began with celebration. September 1st, 2025, marked Jungkook's 28th birthday, and as expected, ARMY launched massive global tributes. From giant billboards in New York and Seoul to elaborate charity projects in his name, the scale of admiration was staggering. Yet, none of these grand gestures could overshadow what unfolded privately between the members. What should have been remembered as a day of joy has instead been immortalized by a confession, an embrace, and a silence heavy with meaning. The turning point emerged when Jungkook, during an intimate dinner gathering, lowered his guard and admitted words that few expected to hear from the golden magne. His statement, caught in snippets through fan translations of a casual conversation, was devastatingly raw. Sometimes I wonder if I can carry all of this, but then I see the love around me, and it keeps me going. It was not rehearsed, not polished for the cameras, and not meant for headlines. Yet those words instantly struck at the very core of BTS's narrative. For the first time in years, Jungkook admitted doubt, not in his artistry, but in his endurance. What followed was as dramatic as it was unsettling. Jimin, long considered Jungkook's closest emotional anchor within the group, was seen visibly shaken. Witness accounts described his expression as frozen, eyes wide in disbelief, before he turned away to hide his tears. The shock was undeniable, but why? Did Jungkook's words expose a hidden struggle Jimin already feared but never confronted? Or was Jimin struck by the unbearable realization that his absence during Jungkook's earlier birthday livestream had weighed more heavily than he imagined? His silence only fueled speculation. Taehyung, meanwhile, acted. As Jungkook's voice faltered and his composure cracked, he reached out, pulling the younger member into an embrace that was steady, protective, and wordless. Observers recall the trembling of Jungkook's shoulders, the way Taehyung's arms tightened, and the sheer desperation in the moment. Within seconds, the celebratory atmosphere was replaced by a scene of collapse, an idol adored by millions breaking under the weight of his own reality. Yet Taehyung's role did not end there. Hours later, he stunned fans with a cryptic social media post, "Health and happiness first, always." The simplicity of the statement belied its gravity. Was this Taehyung's direct response to Jungkook's vulnerability? Was it a subtle warning to ARMY that their endless celebrations, however well-meaning, were not what Jungkook truly needed? Or was it a veiled plea for privacy, a demand that fans respect the unspoken struggles behind the smiles? Whatever the intent, the effect was immediate. ARMY split between praise for Taehyung's protective stance and outrage that he had publicly amplified what might have been a private confession. The center of the storm remained Jimin. His tearful reaction became the focal point of endless analysis. Some argued that his visible shock confirmed that Jungkook's words were tied directly to him, that Jungkook's breakdown was a response to Jimin's condition, his absence, or his own silent burdens. Others warned against drawing hasty conclusions, insisting that the fandom was projecting meaning onto a moment still shrouded in ambiguity. Yet, the image of Jimin wiping his eyes as Jungkook collapsed into Taehyung's arms has now become inseparable from the narrative. The incident forces uncomfortable questions. Was Jungkook's confession truly about the pressures of fame, or was it a personal message directed at those closest to him, particularly Jimin? Did Taehyung overstep by making the moment public, or was his choice an act of protection, ensuring that the fandom shifted focus from spectacle to empathy? And above all, what does Jimin's silence reveal? Guilt, empathy, or an unspoken truth that even he could not confront aloud. The backdrop of the incident only deepens its weight. On the very same day, Korean media reported an attempted break-in at Jungkook's residence, a chilling reminder of the dangers idols face from obsessive fans. Suddenly, his words, "Sometimes I wonder if I can carry all of this," took on a haunting relevance. Was the confession tied to that event? Was the weight he referred to not only the burden of fame, but the fear for personal safety, the exhaustion of constant scrutiny, and the loneliness of carrying global expectations? If so, Taehyung's decision to act publicly was not impulsive, but necessary, a way to redirect ARMY's energy toward protecting Jungkook rather than overwhelming him. The fandom's response was immediate and emotional. Social platforms flooded with reassurances, letters of love, and campaigns centered on mental health awareness. Fans promised to stand by Jungkook no matter what, but the debate remained unresolved. Some insisted Taehyung's choice was brave and humane, forcing the world to acknowledge Jungkook's vulnerability. Others condemned it as a breach of trust, arguing that such raw confessions should remain sacred between brothers, not broadcast to millions. Yet, even amid debate, one undeniable truth emerged. The moment shattered the illusion of invincibility. Jungkook's tears, Jimin's shock, and Taehyung's embrace exposed the fragile humanity beneath the polished surface of BTS. It was a rupture in the narrative of perfection, a reminder that idols, however celebrated, are not immune to breaking under pressure. For ARMY, the incident was both devastating and unforgettable, a moment when the boundary between performance and reality dissolved entirely. Still, ambiguity reigns. Was Jungkook's collapse triggered directly by Jimin's absence? Was Jimin's tearful reaction confirmation of that connection, or merely empathy at witnessing his brother's breakdown? Did Taehyung's cryptic words signal a deeper crisis within the group, or were they simply an appeal for kindness? The lack of clarity has only intensified speculation, creating a vacuum filled by theories, debates, and emotional projections, and so, the questions remain, pressing and unresolved. What exactly did Jungkook reveal that night? Why did it strike Jimin so deeply that he could not contain his tears? And why did Taehyung, usually silent in such matters, decide that this was the moment to speak and act? The answers may never be confirmed. Yet, the haunting image of three brothers, one confessing, one breaking down, and one holding the weight of both, will endure as a defining moment in BTS history. In the end, the story is not just about what was said, but about what it represents: the unbearable burden of global fame, the unbreakable bond of brotherhood, and the fragile humanity that even the brightest stars cannot conceal. Whether Jungkook's tears were for Jimin, for himself, or for the invisible pressures surrounding them all, one fact remains: ARMY will never forget the night when celebration turned to collapse, when silence turned to shock, and when truth, however uncertain, demanded to be seen. The aftermath of this incident continues to unfold, not only among ARMY, but also across the wider entertainment industry. Commentators and cultural analysts are now questioning whether this moment marks a turning point for BTS, particularly in how the members manage the intersection of their public and private lives. What was once carefully controlled by management companies and media filters has now slipped into the open, raw, and unedited. Jungkook's confession, Taehyung's intervention, and Jimin's tears exposed a vulnerability that no scripted performance could ever replicate. This has raised broader concerns. How sustainable is the lifestyle of global idols under constant surveillance and pressure? For years, BTS has been praised for their professionalism, their ability to carry both national pride and international expectation. Yet the very perfection that has been demanded of them may also be eroding their resilience. Jungkook's words, so brief yet so powerful, have become symbolic of this tension. They serve as a mirror reflecting not only his own fatigue, but also the hidden struggles of countless other artists who endure similar pressures in silence. Meanwhile, ARMY finds itself in a position of responsibility. The question is no longer only how much they can celebrate their idols, but also how far they should step back to respect boundaries. Fans must now confront the uncomfortable truth. Love, when excessive, can also be suffocating. In this sense, Taehyung's post, "Health and happiness first, always," resonates beyond Jungkook. It is a reminder that adoration must be tempered with restraint, empathy, and awareness of the human beings behind the stage lights. For Jimin, the silence remains deafening. His reaction may never be fully explained, but perhaps explanation is unnecessary. Sometimes tears speak louder than words, and sometimes silence itself is an act of protection. Whether his grief was for Jungkook, for himself, or for the fragile bond that binds them all, Jimin has once again shown the depth of his empathy, a quality that, though painful in moments like these, has long defined his role within the group. As time passes, one thing is certain: this incident will not simply fade into memory. It has reshaped how the world perceives BTS. A moment of truth or a fabricated illusion? The controversy surrounding Jungkook, Jimin, and Taehyung's emotional encounter in the wake of Jungkook's unexpected confession, Jimin's visible tears, and Taehyung's decisive intervention. A profound question lingers over this entire narrative. Are we witnessing an authentic moment of vulnerability, or are we merely consuming a carefully orchestrated spectacle designed to manipulate public perception? This uncertainty, unsettling as it may be, compels us to scrutinize the foundations upon which such stories are built. Can we, as observers, trust the fragments of information transmitted through social platforms, or must we acknowledge that every frame and every statement may be subject to distortion? One must ask, what do we truly know about that night? The primary accounts circulating originate from fan-captured videos, casual translations, and speculative reports shared on TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, and a host of online media. Yet how much credibility do these platforms command in matters of truth? Is it not possible that the very material sparking such intense debate is nothing more than a selective edit, exaggerated commentary, or deliberate fabrication? And if so, to what extent have we allowed ourselves to be manipulated by narratives crafted for engagement, clicks, and profit rather than for the pursuit of truth? The gravity of Jungkook's words, "Sometimes I wonder if I can carry all of this," cannot be denied. But can their authenticity be verified beyond doubt? Was this statement indeed uttered in the context suggested, or has it been torn from its original setting and reinterpreted to serve a predetermined story? We must consider whether such words reflect a spontaneous revelation of inner struggle, or whether they have been strategically amplified by those who stand to benefit from heightened media attention. Should we not question why such a deeply personal confession would emerge so conveniently at a moment guaranteed to maximize impact? His birthday celebration, a day already amplified by global visibility. Equally pressing is the interpretation of Jimin's reaction. Are we justified in concluding that his tears were born of guilt, grief, or shock? Could it be that the emotional display was merely coincidental, captured at an angle that invited misinterpretation? Or, more provocatively, could his visible reaction have been emphasized or even staged to add weight to the unfolding drama? In a media environment that thrives on sensationalism, can we ever dismiss the possibility that vulnerability itself becomes a performance? What if what we are consuming is less an honest expression of pain and more a carefully packaged narrative designed to evoke maximum emotional investment from fans? The same skepticism must be applied to Taehyung's intervention. His embrace of Jungkook and subsequent online message, "Health and happiness first, always," appeared to project sincerity and care. But should we not interrogate whether such acts, once publicized, serve dual purposes? Was this purely an instinctive gesture of brotherhood, or was it also an opportunity to craft a visible symbol of solidarity, perfectly aligned with the group's long-standing image of unity? Does the timing of his cryptic social post not invite speculation about intentionality? positioning himself as both protector and messenger at a moment when public attention was at its peak? Could it be that what appears to be authenticity is, in fact, performance layered upon performance? These questions may seem unsettling, but they are necessary. In an age where information travels at lightning speed across TikTok clips, Twitter threads, and YouTube commentary videos, how can one ever distinguish between genuine reality and manufactured illusion? Every image we consume, every translation we read, and every interpretation we share may have already passed through countless layers of distortion, exaggeration, or omission. What assurance do we have that we are not engaging with a hoax, a carefully constructed story designed to sustain the machinery of celebrity culture? Furthermore, what role does ARMY play in perpetuating or challenging such narratives? When millions of fans immediately rush to defend, explain, or reinterpret the incident, do they amplify the risk of mistaking speculation for fact? Should they not instead pause, reflect, and critically analyze the reliability of the information being consumed? What does it mean for a fandom to mobilize emotionally on the basis of unverified claims? Are they protecting their idols? Or are they inadvertently participating in a cycle of sensationalism that ultimately harms the very individuals they seek to defend? Consider the broader implications. If this event was authentic, then it reveals a profound vulnerability within BTS that demands empathy, caution, and a reevaluation of how fame is managed in the modern era. Yet if it was fabricated, then it represents a calculated exploitation of emotion, a deliberate manipulation of both idols and fans in the name of publicity. In both cases, the stakes are high and the consequences are far-reaching. Which interpretation should we accept, and how can we be certain that our choice reflects reality rather than illusion? Perhaps the most disturbing question of all is this: why are we so eager to consume narratives of breakdown, vulnerability, and collapse? What does our fascination with Jungkook's tears, Jimin's silence, and Taehyung's embrace say about us as an audience? Do we seek comfort in their humanity, or do we unconsciously desire the spectacle of suffering as proof of their authenticity? Is it not possible that our obsession with realness in idols has created a market where vulnerability itself becomes commodified, packaged, and sold back to us as entertainment? These provocations should unsettle every reader. They force us to confront the uncomfortable possibility that what we perceive as truth may be nothing more than illusion. They demand that we reflect on our own complicity in sustaining a media ecosystem built on speculation and sensation. And they challenge us to resist the temptation of blind belief in favor of skepticism, inquiry, and critical thought. Are we, as consumers of this story, capable of holding ourselves to that higher standard? In conclusion, the incident involving Jungkook, Jimin, and Taehyung remains suspended between reality and fabrication. The fragments of evidence available, videos, translations, fan accounts, and social media posts, are insufficient to construct a definitive narrative. What remains instead is a field of ambiguity, a space where truth and fiction coexist uneasily, demanding scrutiny from all who engage with it. As readers, we are compelled to ask ourselves, do we accept this story at face value, or do we confront the possibility that it is nothing more than a performance, a hoax, or a media-driven illusion? The choice lies not in the hands of Jungkook, Jimin, or Taehyung, but in ours. Will we approach this incident with the skepticism and critical awareness it demands, or will we surrender once again to the comforting fiction of sensationalist storytelling? The unresolved ambiguity of this incident should not be dismissed as mere curiosity, but rather embraced as an opportunity for serious reflection. What if the very structure of modern media thrives not on truth, but on uncertainty itself? Could it be that the blurred line between fact and fabrication is deliberately maintained because ambiguity fuels endless discussion, clicks, and engagement? And if so, are we, as readers, not complicit in sustaining the machinery that benefits from confusion rather than clarity? We must also confront the unsettling possibility that no definitive answer will ever emerge. Even if official statements are released, should we trust them without question, or should we assume that such statements are themselves part of the performance? Can any idol under the weight of global scrutiny truly reveal unfiltered truth, or must every word and every gesture be calculated for survival? If this is the case, then are we not condemned to live perpetually in the shadow of doubt, never certain whether we are witnessing sincerity or manipulation? This tension forces us to reconsider our relationship with information itself. Should we, as responsible consumers, continue to allow ourselves to be moved, outraged, or comforted by stories whose authenticity cannot be verified? Or should we demand higher standards of evidence, resisting the instinct to immediately accept narratives that align with our desires? At what point does empathy become exploitation? And at what point does skepticism become indifference? The story of Jungkook, Jimin, and Taehyung is not only a story about three individuals, but also a mirror reflecting our own vulnerabilities as audiences. Do we hunger so desperately for authenticity that we are willing to accept illusion as truth? Do we demand transparency from idols while refusing to confront our own complicity in the cycle of sensationalism? And ultimately, do we prefer the comfort of believing a dramatic narrative, even if it may be false, over the discomfort of acknowledging uncertainty? Perhaps the final provocation is this: what matters more, whether the event truly happened or the fact that we believed it did? In the end, the unresolved nature of this moment compels us to question not only the idols, but ourselves. Do we truly seek truth, or do we crave spectacle disguised as sincerity? Every tear, every embrace, every silence may be real, or may be performance. The challenge lies in our response. Will we remain passive consumers of illusion, or will we demand clarity in a world built on ambiguity?